All right, picking up where we, god damn it, y'all are in different spots now.
Oh, I want you to. I'm wearing Jaws socks. For you, you have a Jaws poster.
Cute.
Wearing Jaws socks.
Great.
Dripping.
um so picking up where we left off with this, so how did, I mean, I know I struggle with it still daily. How do you, have you found yourself like still lying to yourself about different things, like I mentioned, it's hard to kind of be honest with yourself when you're left by yourself. um and I know, you have to sit back and go, okay, well, this is the reason, this is, I can't do that. There is no like just a little bit.
Oh yeah, no. I still like even like on the two times that I've gone downtown explicitly, like there were times before that it was under different circumstances. Like I hadn't thought it through. I was like, oh, well, I have some time right now, or I got off work early, or whatever it is. Like maybe I'll just roll through downtown and see what's going on. But like I had to stop and catch myself and be like, all right, now, like, but what's really the end goal here? Like, there's probably
nothing's going on.
Yeah, and nothing's going on, by the way. Like, like you're not missing anything. You're not gonna go down there and they'll be like, oh dude, we fucking found a pot of gold today or something. Like it's not like it's gonna be like people sitting on bar stools. Like that's what it's gonna be. And I think there's been a couple times where like even by myself being like, I'll go to the mall, but like I used to have fun going and drinking at the mall bar. So it would still be easy to just fall into one of those spots. Or like, I think even the other day I was like, well, like I could maybe like do a little cocaine but not drink or
like, I've totally been there. I've been there.
Like, I was just like,
oh my God.
I was like, dude, you're fucking tired. Go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
But that's the kind of shit that you do to yourself, is like, well, I can do a line and then it won't be that big of a deal because I'm not drinking, so I won't forget, or I won't be messed up. I'm more clear-headed, so I'll know, like, that's it. You try to blame one drug's use on the other drug's use, and then try to like reason with yourself like, no, without that I can do this. And then you realize that no, that's not the case at all. And that's a shitty realization too.
And it's like you all always end up going home together, like whether you choose one or the other, whatever you're doing, like they somehow call the other one and get them involved. Like,
yes, oh my God, that's so true.
It's like the next thing you know, like, I could have done like that line or whatever, but like the next thing I know, I'd be like, alcohol. Like, when did you show up?
Yeah.
To this party? Like, but I think that's the weird, like the bargaining with yourself and like mental gymnastics, because at your core you don't want to do it. So it's like, so who is this? Like, where is this coming from in my head? If I know at my core of cores, I'm trying to stop this. And if you sat here and put a gun to my head, I would tell you that I want to stop this. But somehow on a Tuesday afternoon at 2:15, I fucking forget all that. And it just goes, the slightest breeze will make me just be like, well, maybe I could do this today or whatever.
Yeah, if there was some cocaine in this wind, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, in like AA or 12-step programs, they call that the mental blank spot, where it's just like something happens and you just like forget everything momentarily and you just fucking dive in and go for it.
Yeah,
it's fun.
It's really battling with yourself and like your own destructive self, like that part of your personality, because like Adrian said, like, that you want to get clean, but there's a part of you that is intrusive, that's like, nah, but do you? And you have to learn to keep that person in check, that part of you in check, because I mean, I struggle with it all the time, especially with weed. Like I, for some reason, I just crave it all the time. I'm like, damn, I miss that. Damn, I miss that.
There's a
Like,
reason for that. It's amazing. So
It
well,
is.
yeah,
It is
great.
really good.
Yeah,
I
it
miss
is.
it.
It is.
I miss it a lot.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
probably will start your bullshit California sobriety thing, but yeah, I mean, like, it becomes a battle of wills with your own self, and that's something that like I was never told. Like I thought, you quit and then like it's shitty for a week and then you're out the other side and you're done. Like nobody
Yeah.
told me that I was still going to be like, dude, I could pull off into this bar right now and have a few drinks, nobody would know the difference.
Yep.
I thought nothing bad would ever happen to me ever once I got sober. I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
this is my only problem, and then everything is fixed.
yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
haven't been to the dentist in 12 years, and I don't need to go. It's fine. But no,
right,
that's
right.
not how the
Yeah.
fuck it goes. It's
Things
annoying.
don't just magically fall into place. Like you think that
Nope.
everything was so scattered because you were just like drunk all the time. And like, yeah, to an extent they were, but not it does kind of suck that you can blame so much on it, but you
Mhm.
can't get more out of stopping it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just life on life's terms now that you have to live.
Hmm.
It's no buffering of reality.
Yeah, you no longer can have that escape, and it's so deceitful and such a crappy trick because like we're talking about, well, maybe I can just pull into this bar and have one drink or whatever, like,
Hmm.
and that's deceitful because it's you actually thinking that you're strong, but
Hmm.
it's coming from the weakest point of view.
Yeah.
The weakest point of view is so deceitful and so dirty and so malicious that it'll be like, you know what? I'm going to use the fact that this bastard's got 50 days under his belt against
Hmm.
to get what I want.
And that's what happened to me when I fell off the wagon the last time, the most recent time. It was like I was working and it was a stressful position at Capital Whale, and one of the managers was like, stay and have a drink and throw darts. And Adrian, that's all we did. Like, so I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll throw darts with you. And then I was like, I'm not really good at this sober. Well, I'll have a beer. And then, that night I had like 2 or 3 beers. And I was like, all right, well, that was good. That was good. I only had three. Like I did a good job. And then 2 nights later, I was like, well, I'm gonna have another 3 beers because I know I can have just 3 beers. And then, within a week, every night I'm throwing darts and drinking beer. And it just, it went from 3 beers to 5 beers to 6 beers to now I'm bringing beers home and buying whiskey. And I'm like, fuck, man, I just undid everything that I had done. And my biggest reason for getting sober was my daughter, but she wasn't here when I was doing that. She was with her mom. That was
Another
like,
compromise.
yeah, like, oh, well, I did this because I wanted to be a good dad. Well, I'm a good dad and she's not here. I deserve a break. And, and then it just,
So
and
you
yeah, it really is. And we're not selling recovery very well because we're like, man, this sucks. Like, it
Well,
sucks. It's like,
I mean, I have to remind myself a lot that like this isn't just like a weakness I have. This is like an actual disease.
mhm,
Like there's nothing inherently wrong with me because I have this. I'm just sick. A lot of people that have fucking cancer, everyone feels bad for them. But if I'm on the street like doing God knows what because I don't, I need money for this or that, then I'm a piece of shit. There's like so much stigma to it. And like, I just feel like if a lot more people like realize that like this is an actual disease, it's verified in the medical field as a disease, then maybe like a lot of shit would change and conversations would change around it.
I love that you use cancer too, because that sounds terrible. Like
yeah.
you use cancer because
Shout out to cancer, yo.
cancer, right? But like one of like the biggest things that I always say when people, because there is like a large group of people who just don't have this problem. Like, or at least if they do, they are addicted to something that is perfectly acceptable, like going to Starbucks every day or something like that. Like, you know what I mean?
Or they can function better.
Yeah, or they can function better and don't realize that they have it. But like, you wouldn't just go up to someone with cancer and say, "Hey, stop having cancer." So like, don't like come up to me and just be like, "Well, why can't you just stop drinking? Like, why can't you just stop indulging?" Because it's not that simple.
I
Like,
do think this is a good
and it's a
time to.
deadly disease.
I do think this is a good point, good time to bring up the point that like it is possible to stop this disease.
Yeah.
It is not possible to stop cancer. So let's just like,
but I do want to say though that like this is a deadly disease.
It is
addiction. People die of it,
Mhm.
and like, yeah, you know, you don't choose addiction. It just kind of happens. And just like you don't choose cancer, it just kind of happens.
Yeah.
But they are two very different things. I'm, not trying to
Yes.
like be like, oh, they're the same thing or
Right,
anything
right,
like that. I'm
right.
just like, I'm just saying.
It ravages people in different ways. Like,
Yeah.
it definitely ravages people in different ways. And like, addiction also is not a solo, a lot of times anyway, is not a solo thing. Like, you're affecting other people. Like, we talked about it a little earlier, like not being at those family events, but not being present at them because like that was the time that you've managed to pull it together to not drink for 24 hours or whatever it looks like. I think, you know what I mean? So I think like even now, like having hung out with my mom, like from having some time like of not indulging at all under my belt, like and seeing how different it is, like, and seeing how she reacts to me differently, and like my family reacts to me differently because I've been absent for like God knows how long. This is Ashley.
Yeah, like it's funny that you mentioned like the holiday thing because there was a time when we lived together, like I didn't even have a car or license at that point because it just wasn't a wise choice. Like we drove under the influence handfuls of times through downtown, and it just wasn't the wise choice. So I got picked up one Thanksgiving to go to Thanksgiving, to which I was sitting the entire time dying to get back downtown so we could start drinking. Because drinking was a big holiday thing, like, or it was bigger around the holidays. Everybody got together at the bars after we did our family thing.
Everybody's in town. Yeah. Like that's everybody's got their family in town. Everybody's got off work, like whatever it looks like.
Yeah. And,
on holidays, that's or at least I'm gonna miss drinking on holidays.
It's different for everybody's family life is different, and though like we've all got our own issues with our families, I've learned, like, I've gotten to know my family more in depth because like we mentioned, like being there but not being present, like when you're giving one word answers and like these short explanations of everything because you're just tired and moody and grumpy, you don't make the connection. And I've found that like after that, certain people I still don't make that connection with, but there are other ones that like with my dad, like honestly, like the more we have conversation, I'm like, whoa, how did I not know all of this?
How did I
Like,
not know any of this?
like this, like Trump, like build the wall, like all this stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck? But like there are some that like, but even with that, like there's things that like we've been able to have deeper conversations about things, and I'm more present and I'm more willing to talk because I'm not in a bad mood because I'm hungover. Like for a long time there was a period where like he would come pick me up and we go fishing. Like he would pick me up with his boat, and it would be 3:30 in the morning, and I just left the bar 2 hours ago, and I would sleep on the back deck of the boat while he's fishing for like 2-3 hours because I'm on this wavy boat.
Yeah,
I'm still half
you
drunk.
can't do it.
Like, yeah. And it's time that I'll never get back with him. But at that time, like I couldn't stop it. There was nothing I could do. And I would go into it going, I gotta get up in the morning. I shouldn't do this tonight. But then $2 Cicatis. How do you say no?
They
Like,
do. And like all the bullshit stuff that you do in those moments to like hide the fact that you're either still drunk or you have been drinking. Like thinking back on all those moments, like with my family and in those times of being like, they know, and like God bless them, like they're just like, well, at least they showed up, like at least they're here, and like they don't say anything about it, like, but like they can smell it on you and they can tell, like they know, but in your head you're like, like I'm getting away. Like
yeah. And you definitely are not.
You're not. Yeah.
All right. I was giving
Well,
Heidi a chance, but
yeah, thanks for the chance. No, I guess I have a better relationship with both of my parents now for sure. Like I actually want to talk to them, you know. When I was like drinking, that was never an issue despite all the trouble I was getting into. Like I was drinking underage with my dad and my mom. It was always just weed that seemed to be like the devil.
That was
Like
the sticking point.
my dad still
yeah.
thinks that it causes schizophrenia.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
my parents have wild ideas on it too.
I learned though, because I'm diagnosed with like bipolar disorder, that like smoking weed and mixing that with bipolar disorder isn't great for people with that. So that's another reason why I choose not to do it now that I know that about myself. But man, I miss it.
Yeah, I miss it. I miss
I
it.
miss weed.
I wish I could tell y'all the same. I didn't smoke.
I kind of expected him to like pop up, like ripping a bong, like, all right, let's talk about Sprite.
Because I was like,
enjoy that, Adrian.
I do feel some kind of way because I'm like, yo, the second I'm done with this.
But that brings up a good point, though. Is this conversation urging you or making you feel the urge to do it? Or but like if this conversation didn't happen tonight, would you want it as much as you do currently?
Because I have plans to watch something later. So it's like it's one of those things. And then I know like I had a really hard day today, so I was gonna let that happen and I have to get up super early. So it's one of those things where like I could have done it earlier too, but I knew I was gonna be doing this. So I was like, okay, instead of smoking weed and just sitting on the couch until this happens, like let me start my taxes, let me like catch up on a few things. So again, like I like that the recovery part of my brain is starting to kick in more in those moments when I'm like, hey, we got a free moment, let's get fucked up. Like even if it's like something that I enjoy or like weed where I'm like, this is still somewhat okay. But I definitely like want to keep it in check because like you still spend a ton of money on it. And it does, like, to me, like I can still do things when I'm high, but it's like having like starting your day and like going to run errands, but then deciding to strap like a 200-pound backpack on while you do all that stuff because it's just harder to keep the motivation rolling all day instead of being like, well, I did this one thing, like let's check out YouTube for like 2 hours and like get snacks or whatever it is. Like, fuck around with this thing that really we just shouldn't be spending any time on. So I think understanding like even the pitfalls of the good stuff in recovery, like, I mean, you could quit drinking, but then start working out too much. And like I've seen people kind of overcorrect in the other direction where like, you know, it hasn't happened a ton, but like I have lost some friends in sobriety who like when they got sober now, like they are such like a general and hard line around like even if like there's the idea of some type of vice involved, like I'm not with it, I'm not doing it, I'm completely different, like scorch that old version of my life. And hey, like if that's the way you got to do it, like that's the way you got to do it. I can't sit out here and tell anybody like how to dig themselves out of the pit, but like it does suck in realizing that I'm not going even scorched earth, but like I eventually will lose friends because we're just going to be going in completely different directions.
Well, me and Heidi have had this conversation off camera, but like it's a shitty realization that like yeah, Adrian, you're absolutely going to lose friends.
Yeah.
Not only for that
Sorry.
reason, but
We're here though.
yeah, we're here. Um, but you're going to lose them because you're not you're not useful to them anymore. You're not having fun with them. You're not at the bar anymore. You're not, hey, remember that time? Like, let's get together and drink and let's, you're going to lose friends because of that. People that are stuck in that way of life. And I don't want to come off sounding like high and mighty because I'm not. I've traded those self-destructive addictions for like overeating, which was already a problem, but now it's in high gear. And the
Focusing on some of
nicotine.
my other issues now. Not
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. But like if you're not at the bar, people don't think about you.
You're not there.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
one cares if you don't go to the
Yeah.
party.
Like, I mean, all those people that I would be around, granted, I was an asshole, but I was also drunk all the time. So, like, what I found funny, people didn't think was funny. And in reality, it wasn't funny. I was just drunk or high on something. And now, without that social buffer, it's like I don't talk to anybody anymore. I talk to you, but I don't talk to you as much. I talk to Ryan. I don't really talk to Ryan that much. Like, but that's it. I don't like. I went downtown for like like a month and a half ago, and just sat outside at Happy's and smoked, and just kind of watched it, happen. And I
It's
was
so
like,
awkward
"Holy
watching it
shit!"
happen.
Yeah, yeah.
Ugh.
You're like, "What? What?" Like you guys do like.
All I can think to myself when I'm like in downtown Fredericksburg watching everyone get drunk around me is all I can think is like this would be a lot cooler if I was doing it too. That's the only
Mhm.
way this
Yeah.
situation could be better. But then I know that like obviously I stopped for a reason, but like it's not as cool now that I'm not involved.
Yeah.
I know that's fucked up to say, but
No,
like
but you're 100% right though.
Like it's totally correct though. Like, and it's just not. And I think the biggest like evidence of like of that tough pill to swallow of like losing friends and like if you're not there at the bar, like you're not really thought about.
Mhm.
Like when like past times when I've tried to do this and you do manage to get like 3 weeks under your belt or a month under your belt. And then finally you're like, all right, like I've had my month, like I've been good. Let me go out. Like I'm gonna go out tonight and you like walk into the bar and you feel like you're walking in there in slow motion because you're like, I've been gone for a month. Like everyone's gonna ask me where I've been at, like da da da. And
Nope.
you walk in and motherfuckers don't even lift their head. Like
yeah.
you stand right next to them at the bar. It takes them 5 minutes to realize you're there. And it's like you never ever left, dude. Like that shit used to kill me. Like, and it
Mhm.
seems so shallow. It seems like the most shallow shit to think about. Like, why would you care? Like, if people cared when you showed back up
Yeah.
to the bar after like abstaining for a little bit. But again, like, it just feeds into more of those issues of like, yo, you have to sit with that anxiety and you have to sit with those feelings of knowing that, like, yeah, you don't have just like some fan club out there waiting and checking for you to come around and all like or whatever it is like you can definitely create like people who root for you and things like that, but for the day to day, like you got to get yourself there and you have to find fulfillment in other places because everyone else is worried about their own shit too, like or worried about their own life or whatever they got going on.
I've noticed that like when I do go downtown and I see people, they're like, "Oh, you're still not drinking?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I'm still doing that whole thing."
Oh, you're still not
And
fun, like
yeah, yeah, yeah. And they're just like, "Oh, okay." And then they almost don't want anything to do with you. Like there's some of the times it's like it falls right back into place, like the conversations and stuff. But then some people are just like, well, I don't know how to interact with you.
Hmm.
And they make you feel bad for, doing, and maybe you make them feel bad. I don't know. Maybe there's like this thing where now they're looking at you going, well, he did it, I need to do it.
You
I'm
become a
ashamed.
mirror. Yeah, you
Yeah,
become a mirror in that moment.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
well, and you kind of take away the charade of why everyone's there
Hmm.
when you're that person, because
Hmm.
I've always looked at those people differently. Like even you, like in the beginning when you were sober, and like Jugs was a big one for me. Like I would always end up inevitably in the end of the night in a corner with Jugs, like picking his brain about like how he was able to stay sober and like still come out. And I think like it's like seeing a fucking unicorn walking down the street when you when there's a person like in spirits or in happies that like you used to get falling down drunk with, and now they're just like, no, I'm good. Like, and you're like, what magic in a bottle do you have
Hmm.
that I cannot seem to obtain? Or why am I not good enough to get myself there?
Hmm.
Like, and it seems like such an unobtainable, for so long, at least for me, when I would see those people, like I would be like, this is such an unobtainable thing for me. Like I'm just so deep in it or whatever it is.
I would like to think that in my recovery, every time I talk to you, I made it a point to be like, I'm proud of you, I love you, like you're doing good. And when you take those steps, like it's I always tried to make sure that like you knew that like one, you weren't alone in it. Two, it was for the better. Like as much as you might not be able to see it, I always tried to make sure I would be like, that's good. That's a good thing. Not like, I mean, if you feel like you need to stop, like it was always like, no, this is a good choice. You're doing the right thing. And I don't, at the time when I kind of did it, I'm not saying like I was the first to ever be sober in life, but like there wasn't anybody to look to at
Yeah.
that time. Like and so when I never had that like unicorn to look at and be like, how do they do it? Like it was just kind of like, well, I got to figure this out and, fuck around. And it's funny because at Kenny's memorial, we, me and Ashley were looking for you, and we were walking through the parking lot. And of course, I'm still sober and doing like just there in a world of like booze. Like
Yeah,
I
debauchery.
didn't, yeah. And I look over and Malloy's in the fucking parking lot and she looks at me and she's like, whoa, it's like seeing a ghost. Well,
Yeah.
that's what it took for me. I had to disappear. Like I had, and not only that, like, but coupled on top of those things I was talking about earlier of people treating you different and they like kind of like, ugh, you're sober, like that whole thing. And they just don't care because you're not in their face with a beer, like all that on top of that's what I needed to do. I needed the solitude in order to figure it out because I had a lot of issues that I was going to have to face. And being around those people, though nobody ever disrespected my recovery by going, nah, man, come on, come on. Like nobody forced it. They would offer it, but nobody forced it. And I wasn't strong enough to not go, yeah, on the first offer. So, you know, and there's that too. Um, yeah, so there's that too. Somebody else talk.
I I I went to my first like 12-step meeting, like I said, the day after my birthday, and my boss actually brought me because he was just nice enough fucking guy to like not fucking fire me for never showing up to work or showing up to work late and hungover. He brought me to my first meeting, and it took me meeting people like me, and like forming a community with those people. And there's like all sorts of different paths of like recovery communities out there besides like 12 steps
Yeah.
and shit like that. But I found other people that were just like me, so crazier than me sometimes, and having community in that way really like fucking saved me so much. That's what like made me keep going to those meetings, because I was like, cool. And once I moved to Richmond, that really helps, because like it wasn't just a whole bunch of fucking old white people, because Fredericksburg, that's kind of all it is there. But in Richmond, it's like younger folks, punk folks, like everybody, all different types of people in recovery here. So that like saved my ass so much.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that was super hard to realize was like you're not going to be able to start and stop. Like I saw
Yeah.
people that could just do it like every once in a while, and like me and Adrian, like that's how it started. Like we were talking about it before you hopped on. Like it started as like the high school thing where like it's just on the weekends, and
Hmm.
then it continued and continued and continued to the point where it was like, whoops, this isn't a thing that I just do sometimes. Now it's a way of life, and I got to figure out how to stop it. Like, and like as far as like the community thing, like I didn't get that, and I didn't go to meetings, but I had one friend that was court ordered to go to AA meetings, and I went with them.
It's fucked
And
up that they do that.
Yeah, it really is.
yeah,
I mean, I
well,
get why, but like, ugh.
yeah, I mean, it sucks. And for people like me, like if an authority figure is saying do this, you better
You're not
believe
gonna
I'm
want
not
to.
going to.
Not gonna want to do it. Yeah.
And I think that
Yeah.
that was a big part of me starting to party like I was because my dad's dad was an alcoholic. So he was very much like never touched a beer, weed is the devil, like everything. And then when I got out and I was able to do it, like I was like, bring me everything. Like, and it became a devil in my life, but one that I still try to keep at bay as best as I can. But like I understand like the idea behind forcing that, because some people maybe that will work for, but the people like me, like that doesn't, trying to force me into it.
Yeah.
No, I gotta, when I'm ready to do it, then that's when it will work.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people in my life, even before I came to the conclusion, like before I stopped, when I was struggling with the idea of like, I can't stop, even before that, people were like, dude, you crashed into a house. You're now called. And I was like, no, bro, I'm
No,
young.
no, yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
young. I'm
yeah.
Oh,
young,
that was
wild, and
Yeah.
free.
that
Well,
was too.
technically, the zoning board shouldn't have made that a part of the house. Like, they shouldn't have built that house there
Yeah.
because the way the road curves. See, that's the thing, though. So, like, it wasn't me; it was the city. They planned it
I'm so
properly.
fortunate. Like nothing like that ever happened to me. Like throughout everything, throughout all the drunk driving, throughout all the like being like super messed up, like
Mhm.
throughout, hustling drugs, like
Mhm.
nothing ever happened to me. Like
Mhm.
I got in like a few, like I even in hindsight, like for everything that I was doing, like a few kind of close shaves with the law, but like never like I was never put in handcuffs. I was never put in the back of a car. Like was always kind of managed to like talk my way out of it or like
Mhm.
just miss it or like whatever it is. Like so I don't know, I like to think like that's a fortunate thing, but I also hate that like there's so many other people out there who,
The
be,
houses jump in front of them.
yeah, we're like because we quantify that rock bottom has to be this massive thing that happens to you that like
Yeah.
scares you straight. And in actuality, that's not it is. That's not what it is. Like sometimes people just float around at the bottom and you'll never actually hit whatever that thing is, or like you won't crash your car, that person won't leave you or whatever it is. But you may not recognize what rock bottom looks like because it may not be some massive crazy event like, and those
I
people just keep going thinking they don't have a problem.
I definitely knew that I had a problem, but like I was really good at reasoning with myself. Um, after I was living in Spotsylvania behind the mall. I think you might remember this,
I remember
Adrian. I drove Ensweiler home one night. We got a possession charge. And then we were on papers, and I was trying to get Kenny to drive me back and forth to jail for like random drug testing. And then I finally get my license back, and me and Ensweiler go downtown, we party, and I'm taking him home, and it's snowing, and we were taking Greg back to his house on Lafayette, and I was like, I'm gonna drift. And so like I pull the e-brake on my car and I
that.
slide across this entryway and hit his mailbox, which was all metal. Like there was no like it was like wrought iron steel.
Right.
And I drove from his house on Lafayette, Ensweiler home deep in Spotsylvania, then back to behind the mall with my tail light, the whole entire tail light hanging out of the car. And like somehow did not get pulled over.
The only thing that saved you was
Oh
the
my
fact that it was
God.
snowing. That's the
Yeah,
only thing that
yeah.
saved you.
I mean,
The cops didn't want to be out there
no, they
either.
don't want
Yeah.
to be out there with that.
And like I was like, wow, dude, this is like holy shit, I'm lucky. And then the next 2 days later, I'm driving drunk, fall asleep in my car, sideswipe the guardrail going over Bragg Road, like over 95, and like wake up and like, get the car straight. And I'm like, ah man, I'm just tired. I'm just tired. That's all. And still nothing happened to me with like the law.
Hey, no, we
You
have
guys are so
a
lucky.
minute left.
All right.
I'm gonna have to cut it right here.
All right. Well,
Bye,
You guys keep going
Adrian.
now.
yeah,
So
okay.
proud of you.
Yeah, we're proud of you, buddy. Keep it up.
Now let's do it again soon. I want to do another one.
All right.
Yay.
Well, I wanted the next one will be like, do Black Lives actually matter?
I'm fine with that.
All right. All right. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
Later, bud.